let's try that again. And what happened? Okay. Take a breath. Game delay. Hold on. It was all too perfect. I don't want to share my desktop.
You're good.
I'm just trying to pull it up. Okay. Okay, let's try that again. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And thanks to those of you that were joining us on Zoom. Last week, I was getting a lot of emails, actually last couple of weeks, over the things that the school shootings that happened in Texas. And so I decided I was getting enough email that it might be a good idea to pull our community together and talk about our school safety plan and how we are preparing for the event should something, not just a shooting scenario, but other natural disasters or things like that, how they happen. So I asked our wonderful Sheriff's Department to join us tonight, and they were happy to agree. So I'm going to have them introduce themselves. Just if somebody's talking.
My name is Sean Ray. I'm the lieutenant, so I'm the station commander of the Lakeside Substation, which has Lakeside and unincorporated El Cajon areas.
You're not unmuted.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know you could do that.
Okay, that should be good.
Now we have to turn it down. We'll get there, you guys. We're going to get there. Okay, just 1 second. Okay, I'm up there. Now what do I need to do over here? Turn this off. Okay.
No, it's still sharing.
We're not sharing correctly on Zoom. It's only seeing a portion of the screen. If I put it in play mode, right, then I can just do it like that. It's fine. Thank you.
You need to mute. I should unmute.
I think I'm good. It's the feedback.
Okay, let's test that.
What do we need to do for that?
I think if you mute, then I unmute. You need to mute it when he's unmuted.
I can't see it though, is the problem.
I think that sounds better. Test, test. All right, let's try that. Okay, that seems better. It only gets harder after introductions. Hi, my name is Sean Ray, and I'm a lieutenant with the San Diego County Sheriff's Department. And I have the Lakeside substation. So I'm the station commander of Lakeside and unincorporated El Cajon.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jacob Donnan, and I am the crime prevention specialist for Lakeside and unincorporated El Cajon.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Rhonda Taylor. Understand terminology used in emergency situations and understand what parents can do to help. We're also going to talk about the relationship between the school district and the sheriff's department and understanding their role in a school emergency, in the event of an emergency. So diving right into that, steps taken to promote school safety. Every year at the beginning of the year, typically we do an annual fit survey of our school sites. And that's where we walk the campus and we fill out a form and we look at our fencing. We make sure that there's no holes or anything like that. We look at the working condition of the gates. Are the locks working? Just basically the overall physical fitness of the campus. And so we do that annually every year. We have put enhanced gating at the front of all of our school sites. So you'll see that the wrought iron fencing that goes around the campuses, you can't climb up that. So we do have that at all of the school sites. We have an annual update of our school safety plans. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. I'm not going to be able to share that document though. And we have active shooter training for our staff annually. Every year, the principals and the staff have to go through an active shooter training. We have a comprehensive planning through environmental design. And so Jake might want to mention that a little bit later or talk about that a little bit more. We also have regular drills for student practice. We have to do a fire drill every month, I believe a duck and cover for an earthquake 3 times a year. We have to do an active shooter drill twice a year. And what am I missing? I think the earthquake, the fire, And that one, yes. And so we do those annually. It's part of the safety plan. They have to be recorded and documented, and we look at them to make sure that everybody is keeping up with their emergency drills. We have a strong relationship with law enforcement with their good presence on our campus. They're there sometimes, even when nothing is wrong. They just stop by to say hi. And we also have a Navigate Prepared app that teachers can have on their phone and the district personnel has on their phone. And I'm going to have Dr. Winspear, can you speak to that just a little bit? The Navigate Prepared?
Sure, the Navigate Prepared app is basically an application where we build our comprehensive school safety plans. We use a format that's similar across all of the schools. It's got all of the state required pieces to it. And then the app has some other features that we use, including logging our drills so that here at the district office, we have access to that data. We can see when drills were held. There is also a feature of the app where we have taken, when we signed on with Navigate Prepared, they came out and took pictures of all of our school sites. So we have data in there about where all of our electrical on and off areas are, sorry, I'm not using the proper terminology, but for gas, water, electric, fire alarms, bathrooms. It's a very comprehensive map with pictures so that in the event of emergency, we have access to very detailed information about each and every one of our campuses. And then there is the feature where staff can download the app onto their phones, although we don't currently require our staff to do that.
Okay, thank you very much. So our comprehensive school safety plan is a very large document. It is the one that I'm talking about is not the one that's in Navigate Prepared. We use that one, but it's about 141 pages that we fill out. It goes through the whole campus security, the fencing, where everything's located. So again, it's all of that information that she just said in written document form. So it has every member of the staff is assigned a role to play should there be an emergency. They're on teams, and those teams have a certain function and a certain requirement that they need to complete. So those functions have to be practiced several times, like I mentioned, a couple of times a year. And everyone is accounted for. Where we would meet if we were going to go off campus, where would our reunification center be? How we would communicate with parents? Who's going to communicate with parents? How is that communication going to look? So everything that needs to happen is extremely documented in this plan. So as you know, staff changes annually. The people go here and there. So those plans have to be updated, reviewed, revisited. They're submitted to the school board for approval. So the school board looks at the plans and reads them all and approves them. And then they're uploaded into our system where we keep them. So as I mentioned, we have increased the school fencing. Since recently, we have been pretty much having our doors locked at the school campuses all the time. It's inconvenient for parents, I know, but it's just another measure of safety that we have in place right now. We've had it during COVID so that we were very much in control of who came in and came out. So we're pretty much used to that system. We have the fencing locked, the fencing around the front. We have a couple of campuses where the office is not behind the fence. And so we've worked with some alternative solutions so that kids don't have to come out of the fence to go into the office. So we've made another entryway for them so that they're never outside of the fence. So again, we have the locking doors. Parents have to call or knock to gain access to that. So one of the questions that when we were talking about, we thought that parents might ask is, why don't we have SROs like the high schools do? Why don't we have a law enforcement presence on our campus? And for right now, it's kind of the cost. So it's $152,000. So let's say even if we were able to afford one, right? To have them spread them out through nine campuses if we count the satellite schools, then how effective would that be? So how can we effectively use that resource, or how else can we maintain security on our schools and be more fiscally responsible with that? Okay, one thing I wanted to talk about is terminology, and I'm thanking the news for this one because after what happened in Texas happened, And we had a little situation here at Lemon Crest. I'm sure it went through, the community pretty quickly, where we had a suspicious individual within the vicinity of the campus, not on the campus, not threatening the campus, just within the vicinity. A concerned community member did exactly what they're supposed to do, and they contacted the local law enforcement and the school. So then the law enforcement said to the school, put the kids inside. So that is called a secure campus, also sometimes called a shelter in place. Those two are about the same thing. It is not a lockdown. So it went through the community like wildfire. My phone was blowing up, emails, we're having a lockdown, what's going on? So a secure campus means that something is happening in the neighborhood, not necessarily, not at the school site, but in the neighborhood. And to assist law enforcement, if they're looking for somebody or to protect our students, we just, in an abundance of a caution, put them indoors and make sure that they're safe and secure. Are we good on the terminology? Anybody have any questions on that? Okay, so when the news contacted me, they said, you had a lockdown. I said, no, we did not. We had a secure campus event. What is that? So I'm letting you guys know what it is. So if it's a lockdown, that's serious stuff. So secure campus, like I said, is in the community. So the parents' role, I'm gonna let our friends here talk a little bit more about that, but it would assist the school greatly. I understand, I'm also a mom, right? So I understand you want your kid as fast as you can get your kid if you think something's happening and you're afraid. But it would assist the school greatly if we were not flooded with a whole bunch of people banging on the door, screaming for their child. Because we have to follow rules and procedures as to how that child is going to be released. We have to make sure we have a record of it so that we know where everybody is, because at the end of the day, we're responsible for your child. And we have to take that responsibility very seriously. Okay, I'm turning it over.
Just making sure we're good on audio.
Mhm.
Okay, so how do I go to the next slide?
Okay.
Thanks. So talk about a little bit about San Diego Sheriffs and our active shooter response. Basically, we train what's called immediate action rapid deployment. I could go into tactics, but basically we want to get a minimal presence on campus to deal with an active shooter. If it's just one deputy, that one deputy is going to go in. Ideally, we would like to wait for at least 4, but I can tell you and I can assure you that every San Diego Sheriff's deputy that I've ever worked with is not going to stand there and listen to gunfire going off and not do something about it, not immediately enter. We're fortunate in that we have enough staff on scene between deputies in not just in Lakeside, but Santee and Alpine. And that would be what we would call an 1199 situation where everybody would be coming from everywhere. We also train with Highway Patrol, with Elkhorn Police Department. Everybody is trained regionally on immediate action rapid deployment. It's been implemented since 2002 and repeatedly trained. You get a large dose of it, not only in the regional academy, but every year. And as a matter of fact, this weekend, we are hosting 2 10-hour training days, training day on Saturday and a training day on Sunday, in which we are going to be at Las Cochas Creek Middle School. And every deputy in East County is going to go through actual live fire, when I mean simulated live fire situations in which active shooter would be trained. So that's not necessarily in response to what happened in Texas. It was something that's been planned because we always train it. But I want to assure everybody that we do not stand by and wait. We go in, we have a plan. Without getting too much into tactics, like I said, we try to get a diamond formation and then go in and immediately address the threat. Next slide, please. So talk specifically about Lakeside. Each deputy has a specific beat, and they are tasked with being familiar with all of the schools on their beat. They know the layouts. They should know the staff. They are expected to regularly patrol schools and to get to know them. So I want to urge you, if you see a deputy on campus or out front of campus, don't be alarmed. It's something that expect especially day shift deputies to be out and not only just sitting in the car, but getting out of the car, handing stickers out to kids, getting to know the staff, really humanizing the badge is something we've really tried to do in this new age of policing, transparent policing, getting to know everybody out there. So that's going to aid if we do have a rapid response, that we do know the school, know the layout, know the staff. That's something we do here in Lakeside. Parent response. So I'm a father of 4, and I can understand everybody if something was to happen or the news would go out, for everybody would want to get their child as soon as possible and get on campus. But I urge you to try to resist that, because what's going to happen is we're going to clog the roadways and we're going to block responding law enforcement, responding ambulances, and clog up those arteries. And we need to get deputies, law enforcement, ambulances there. Don't run into the school. You'd be amazed every time we get a call that a suspect is in a white vehicle, or maybe wearing, black pants and a blue shirt. You look around and everybody's in a white vehicle and wearing black pants and a blue shirt. It's just the nature of law enforcement. It always happens that way. So if we can minimize the number of people and be able to target and identify the suspect, which is the biggest challenge of responding to these types of calls, it would really aid us. So I understand the need, but please let us engage and neutralize the suspects first. That is our #1 priority, is making sure everybody's safe. And lastly, I believe this is my last slide. Most all of these, in studying a lot of the mass shooting events, not just at the schools, but in just across the nation, many of these have warning signs. There's a large buildup prior to the event. They don't happen necessarily the day that they were planned. So I encourage everybody to report suspicious activity, and each of those is investigated immediately. If it's happening right now, of course, call 911. Anything you see, like the gentleman last week, that was handled well. Call 911. We are there and ready, and we urge you to do that. If it's not an emergency, use your discretion. There's always the non-emergency line. You can look it up via the internet, any way, any manner. And then if it's something that you just have an icky feeling about, and somebody maybe creeped you out, or something happened, and maybe you have a neighbor that's acting suspiciously, or somebody you know that might have made some threats that concern you, there's many ways to report things like that. You can call non-emergency, or you can go online and fill out what's called the suspicious activity report. There's many links out there. You can just put you can Google search San Diego suspicious activity report, and you'll end up at the Law Enforcement Coordination Center, which is a center over in Claremont Mesa, in which every law enforcement agency, federal, FBI, state, all of the local agencies have representation there. And you can fill it out online. You can even do it anonymous, and that will promptly be investigated. Just, use your discretion there. But I plead, you're the eyes and ears of the community, and a deputy can't be everywhere. Most days we have about 5 deputies for all of Lakeside on any given day, sometimes more, sometimes even less. And we can get spread thin on radio calls. So you being the eyes and ears of the community, I urge you that these types of things will be investigated. And I'll hand it over to Jake.
All right, everyone. As I introduced myself earlier, I introduced you as a crime prevention specialist, but my role actually before this current role was a 911 dispatcher. So I found it pretty important. I wanted to share some knowledge with you guys and what you could expect if you did have to call 911 in an emergency situation. Location. Location is the utmost important fact that we need right off the bat. We can't send you help if we don't know where you are, just plain and simple. Location will be the first thing you'd want to tell us if we get disconnected, you're in an area with poor service. As long as we know where you are, we can at least try and find you in a specific location. We do have a few technological advances that are really helpful in finding locations. One is called Rapid Deploy, and it really depends on how good the service is, depending on where you're calling from. But it's usually pretty accurate, and we'll be able to kind of track you down within anywhere from 10 to 100 meters. It's usually closer to 10, and pinpoint your location if you are unable to give us your location. Being a good witness. Obviously, if you're witnessing something, an active crime that's in progress, we want to know who's the one that's perpetrating this act. But obviously, we want you guys to keep your safety at the utmost priority. If you can't give us a good description and still keep yourself safe, we'd rather you just stay safe, avoid the area. But if you can, put yourself in a safe position. We want to know what color shirt are they wearing? Like Lieutenant Ray said earlier, blue shirt, black pants. Same goes for vehicles. If you know the make, model, the color. I know there's a lot of generic vehicles out there that are really popular. Are there any bumper stickers, specific custom license plates? Anything like that can really help us. And then same goes for identifying people as well. Do they have any noticeable tattoos, beards, mustaches, hair color, glasses? Any little thing can really go a long way in helping us identify the right person. So when deputies do arrive on scene, they're able to pinpoint who they're looking for real quick. So as I said, good suspect description and deputy safety. When I say deputy safety, I mean the dispatcher will ask you two pretty important questions. Do you believe the person is possibly under the influence of drugs or alcohol? Are they rambling? Are they throwing stuff? I mean, are they acting in a suspicious way? And then most important, we want to know, do you see any visible weapons? Do they have a bat, a gun, a knife? It's going to determine or help our deputies determine how they're going to respond to that specific situation. And obviously, if you're calling 911, you're more than likely in a very stressful situation. But we want to let the dispatcher ask the questions. Depending on what you're reporting, they have a specific set of questions they're going to need answered to the best of your ability. So let's just kind of go with the flow and let the dispatcher run the conversation. A lot of times, maybe someone's in a domestic violence situation or a number of other situations. But if you are in danger and you're afraid that that person that you're with, you're afraid that they might know you're calling 911, dial 911 and just set the phone down. So that way there's no suspicion on their end that you've called 911. Like I said, we have rapid deploy that can get us a good idea of where you're located. And then being able to hear anything you say in the background will also be able to help us with any descriptions, locations, things of that nature. So a lot of people think you call 911, boom, we know where you are, and we know your name, your phone number, all that good stuff. Not always the case. Landlines, if you call 911, typically, most of the time, it will auto-populate your address. So we'll have a good location of where you are. Cell phones, like I said earlier, it's kind of hit and miss depending on how good your cell reception is. And also a very important one for anyone that has a voice over internet phone. When you initially sign up for these services, you have your home address. Well, that home address sticks with your account even if you move. So everyone needs to make sure if you do have a voice over internet phone that you update your current address. Because I've been at dispatch before and I'll get a call and the auto-populate address is from like Arizona, Colorado, something like that. That's obviously not going to help us. So having your up-to-date account information is going to be really important with that. And lastly, I want to touch on accidental 911 calls. It happens more often than not. I'd say I'd get 30 calls a day that were just accidents. It's no big deal at all. We want everyone to know that. Just don't hang up, because then we're going to use that rapid deploy. We're going to find you. We're going to contact your service provider, get the account information on there. That's another one to keep up with also, is your account information for cell phones. Just don't hang up. Tell the dispatcher, hey, sorry, no biggie, it was an accident. That also goes for phones that aren't currently active. A lot of people will give them to their young ones to play with. Those phones can still dial 911. So we'll get a lot of calls of just a baby rambling, and we're trying to figure out what's going on. And we'll go through the whole process, rapid deploy, phone subscriber, all that good stuff. But yeah, don't stress if you do accidentally call, just let us know. It's not a big deal. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so we're taking questions. Can we take the chat question first?
Yeah, I can read it to you if you'd like.
Okay.
It says, I understand that you need parents and all non-emergency personnel to give you the space to do your job. My nephew who lived with me at the time was shot at Santana High School in 2001. One of the many things you did well was to set up a command center off campus. Parents could go there to get news about our kids. Of course, I was desperate, but I went there instead of to the campus. Do we have identified sites for this at each of our schools in Lakeside? If not, can we get them?
Yes, we do have identified, every school has an identified off-campus site where we would do a reunification or a parent communication point if we needed to do that. It's in the school safety plan. One from the audience, does anybody?
We need them to stand up front.
Oh, okay.
I'll read the question.
Thanks.
Okay.
It says, I'm confused about the statement that, oh, was someone talking? Oh, I'm confused about the statement. Hold on, I lost it. About the statement that every school has enhanced fencing that cannot be climbed over. Winter Gardens has a short fence that is easily climbed over by anyone, and frankly, that's terrifying for me. How is this allowable? And is there a plan to update it? These are our youngest kids.
That is something we would have to look at. And that is correct. Winter Gardens does not have the wrought iron fencing yet.
I just want to make sure we're ready. This is great and everything, but I had contacted you last week. I have a 7-year-old grandson, one grandchild, and I was contacting you. I don't know when and how our government and country is going to get this issue, you know, better than it ever does. But my biggest issue, you know, it's great about the command posts and all these different things and whatnot, but we have to stop it before it gets onto campus. So, like, I'm not familiar with whatever the school that was just brought up, but, you know, that's until I understand things take time, and I understand we're, 2 days from school being out.
Mhm.
So, but before the next year starts, any of the schools that aren't updated, are they gonna get updated before school starts again? And what are you guys gonna do if you do need additional help? I mean, you mentioned something about the, like you used an abbreviation that I didn't get, but something about $152,000.
School resource officer.
Okay, so, and they have those, I guess, on high school, not so much on elementary and middle schools, and that's fine. And I'm glad to hear that the doors are being locked and all that type of thing. But, you know, instead of spending the $152,000, maybe additional security guards, professional security guards, you know, need to be posted somewhere that the, you know, or parent volunteers or whatever. We need to get something rolling to help, because I understand there's a budget and all that type of thing, and you have to figure out what's what. But if, you know, until the next year or two, till everything is either calmed down or improvements are made or confidence is instilled in grandparents and parents that our children are safe. I mean, just watching Matthew McConaughey and the things that are going on, and the police didn't go on campus for 77 minutes, which is over an hour, and that poor teacher sat there bleeding and shot and all of that. And then I'm glad to know if it's just one responding officer, they're not going to wait for everybody else. Although I didn't get the reference, I don't understand the diamond reference you mentioned. But that's the thing, these are small children. I'm sorry, it's the air conditioning. These are small children, and hiding under their desks are not going to do it. It's not going to keep them safe. And locking doors do, but if parents, if teachers forget and open the door or whatever. So that's why we've got to make sure that the campus is secure everywhere. And if that takes additional PTA or volunteer parents to come and stand at different areas of the gates or whatever, we need to put something together. We can't wait for government or, you know, other people to do it. It's, you know, we have to do something something more, whether it's using the 152,000 instead of trying to do the one to get security guards or implementing, you know, like I said, I'll go and rotate every day and spend a couple of hours. I'll even go to a school that's not, Georgie goes to Lakeview, and I think it's pretty secure. However, like you said, once you come onto the main gate, which is a chain link, the office is not secured. The gate runs behind it.
Mhm.
So I don't know how the children, when they need to get to the office, but I have a feeling they have to go out that gate that locks or whatever.
Mhm.
And I don't know during the day if those gates are shut and locked so that nobody can get on them. But I'm just saying that, you know, it doesn't have to fall all on your shoulders. This has been a problem that's been evidently rising for many, many years. And, you know, regardless, this isn't a political thing. This is, what do we need to do to secure whatever schools? How can we help you? You know, and we just the need to do something, because hiding under the desk and having command systems and posts and people meetings that's too late. We've got to stop it from happening. You know, we had Granite Hills had somebody, you know, one time in Santana, and,
Mhm.
you know, heaven forbid, I want it to stop all the way around. We can't control everything but just our area. So whatever we can do in Lakeside School District to, you know, really step up evidently, you know, and get the gates done, you know, prioritize them, whatever needs to be done. But I really feel that you just have to make sure it's secure, regardless if a door gets left open by a teacher or not, or they're in middle of, if nobody can get past somebody that's standing there saying, you know, you gotta go check in with the office or whatever, you know, something a bit more that's gonna be, stop it before it happens.
I hear you. You have a lot of good things going on there, and I want to try and address them as I heard them. Yes, we're always looking for ways to enhance the safety of our schools. We're always talking about our safety plans and how can we do more. I want to remind you or assure you that schools are statistically the safest places for our students to be.
Not anymore, not right now. Not right
Yeah,
now.
right. But if you take all of the schools and do a percentage, they're still very, but I hear what you're saying. This is very emotional and very scary for a lot of people. And I want you to know that we totally recognize that. So we also have to go back to when our schools were designed. Most of our schools were built in the 1950s. I think the Lemon Crest might have been in the 70s, but built in the 1950s as the center of our community. The idea with the design was this is our place to come and be together and, you know, have this community feel, right? So yes, we can put this wrought iron fencing all around the front of the fields, but I can walk you out to, or out in front of the schools, I can walk you out to any school field and it's going to have a circle of houses that neighbor it. I can think of Lakeview Elementary, where I was principal for a long time. The houses are up higher. So there's only, we can't encapsulate it, I guess is what I'm saying. But what we can do is have eyes, you know, when the parents are there. Most of our schools are still the hub for parents. We've welcomed parents back since the COVID pandemic. We're having parents on campus now. So when you're on the campus, your eyes are open. If you see anything that seems suspicious or out of the ordinary, then that's when we deploy what we're talking about tonight. We will take every precaution that we possibly can. The kids are our number one priority. If it wasn't for them, none of us would have a job in this district, right? They are why we're here. We're committed to them. We're passionate about them. And their security is why we're here. We're always looking for ways to improve. And as they come out with new systems, we're looking into those systems. Navigate Prepared was a new system. How do we encapsulate all of this? This encapsulates it for us. But without building the domes over our schools and locking them down that way, right? It's going to take all of us as a community to have our eyes open, our ears aware. If you see something on Facebook, Facebook is just like crazy. If you see something, you report it. And somebody says something, we can't take anything as, oh, they don't mean that. It's not real. It's not, you know, it's not something I need to report. So if you see something, say something. Sorry, I'm gonna lose my voice now. One thing I wanted to say, preventing it from happening. Lakeside Union School District is very blessed that we have a counselor on every single school site. So we are starting with our very young ones, teaching them appropriate social skills. We have a lot of anti-bullying programs. That doesn't mean that it doesn't still happen, but we address it as quickly as we can. We do a lot of work socially and emotionally with our students and teach them appropriate ways to interact with one another. So what we try to do is get them when they're very, very young, and as they're growing through our system, all of the emotional support, because the people that do this are people who did not feel emotionally supported in their school system. We check in with our students several times with surveys. How are you feeling? Are you connected to the school? Do you have a relationship with an adult? Our middle schools are running crew classes this year. That means they have one teacher that they go to, I think, every day, and they see this teacher, and this is their adult person on the campus that they're forming a relationship with. If something's going on, they can go to that person. So it's all about developing those relationships with our students and creating strong bonds and buy-in to the school system.
Right, which helps for the two 18-year-olds that turn 18 and went got the guns and all that. But I'm talking about any middle-aged person or man or whatever, you know, trying to get onto a campus.
And that's where the community's eyes are going to be so incredibly important. And we're
Right.
going to take every precaution that we have available to
So I
us.
want to try to help the person that messaged through there. So the school that they were concerned about, can you assure them, I'm speaking kind of on behalf of them, can you assure them that whatever school they're talking about is going to have the wrought iron gate and the locking?
I can
doors so
assure you that we
people-
will follow the process to have we would have the discussion to get the process rolling to make sure that that school is as secure as the other
How long
campuses.
does it normally take for?
That one I
schools to
can't
get-
tell you because that's about going out for bid and everything else. So those things just are not like immediate, but we can do everything we can in the meantime. Crystal.
So, as Lieutenant Ray said, they're not unannounced, like a lot of the times they're announced. We know there are signs and they are reported. People do report what they say on social media. The average school shooter is 17. The second average school age is 16. These are ages. The third average is 15. These are kids. And so I thank you for recognizing that, Dr. Taylor, and saying that you recognize how important it is for them to be emotionally connected to schools, because that's clearly what motivates them to do these things.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, are we, as a school district, are we prepared to have a conversation about what we can do to prevent them? When people report that these things are being said on social media to whomever, what process, what system do we have to do something about it? I have looked at the policies of discipline. I've looked at the policies of threats. The only threat we have right now is a bomb threat policy. San Diego State, am I incorrect about this? San Diego Unified School District also does not have a threat policy, particularly for this. It's only for bomb threats. They're outdated. We just need to have a conversation and talk about what disciplinary actions need to take place in order to really support these kids to not do these things. And the language in all of the policies are very soft. You know, it may include a psychiatrist, it may include an evaluation, it may include, you know, all these different support systems. That would be great. But when it comes to this issue, I think parents, we would all feel much more secure if there was a policy that had teeth in it, that we know there's security and we know that everyone is going to do what they need to do to protect that child from doing what they want to do. And CPS needs to get involved with this. If we aren't going to, if we as a school district cannot hold kids criminally accountable, if we can't hold whomever they get that firearm from criminally accountable, then we need to say in writing always, CPS is going to be notified and they can do all that. Another thing is, because these are children, they're getting it from someone, they're getting it from their parents, they're getting it from an adult. So what can we do as a school district to hold those adults accountable. And
So-
if that's nothing, then, you know, we'll take it to another conversation, but maybe that's something we need to talk to the adults in our community about, you know, double check, do trainings, show them statistics, things like that. But I think that prevention is our #1 chance of making this okay at all. It's all prevention. You can have the fences, you can have everything, you can have all the systems in place, just like she said, it won't make a difference. Even the SROs, like, there's data that says that schools with an SRO on campus is almost 3 times as likely to be a campus where an active shooter comes onto campus. Up to 3 times as likely. And I'm not saying that there's a correlation. I'm not saying that there's causation. I'm saying it doesn't work. And so even if we did have the money, I don't think that would be a good thing to try. I think we really need to put all of our eggs in the prevention basket.
So you're talking about 2 things. You're talking about policy, and surely the board and I can look through our policy and see if we need to update. We update our policies annually, so that's definitely something we can do. You're also talking about procedure, and we do have procedures in place. So if a kid says to another kid on campus, hey, yada, yada, I've got this thing, I'm gonna bring it to school, or, you know, I have a hit list, or whatever the case may be, it immediately triggers our procedure of where we reach out, we talk to the kid, we do a threat assessment with the kid, we contact law enforcement, they go out, they do a threat assessment, they look at the home to see if guns are present, if it's secure, if it's something that we need to worry about, we're in communication about that. Then there's the CPS reporting that's involved in that, and the mental health factor. That is, does this child need to receive some mental health services? So all of those things are in place. It's not a policy, but it is a procedure, and we're very on top of those procedures and very active with them. And they do have teeth, they do.
I can speak briefly real quick about the San Diego County Regional School Threat Protocol and for the Sheriff's Department's role in that. If there is a school threat, we have a team of juvenile detectives. We have centralized juvenile detectives, and then we have juvenile detectives that are assigned to the Lakeside and Santee Station. Each of them are on call. They have take-home cars. They have department cell phones, and they have a systematic way of dealing with these because we deal with them so often. It's terrible. We do deal with school threats quite often, and every time there is an incident, there is an uptick in copycat kind of incidents where
One more
there's
question
threats
in
and
the
there's
chat.
online things. So,
wanna
so I
go
don't
there
even know if I
next.
need to unmute for this or not, but I just wanted to let you know that there is a system in place. And fortunately, even though I'm not the most tech savvy person, I know that there's TikTok and Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat. They have methods to freeze that information and identify the source of that, whoever put that in, or at least get to the person if they're reposting it, to try to rapidly get to the source of that threat, identify it, figure out, you know, is this an actual threat, or is it a kid being very foolish at the time? But I want you to know that, yes, we rapidly deploy them. They all have resources and they work together and immediately identify those.
I'm very encouraged to hear that from both of you. Thank you so much. Do you think you have the confidence to say that if any student were to make a threat or to show up at school with a firearm, that you can promise our community that that particular student will not do it?
Let's not just say a firearm, let's say a weapon, period.
Will not do what? What is it?
Will not follow through with what they intend to do. Do you think the policies and all those things are so effective that if a child were to say that they had intended to do it, can you say with confidence that they will not, with the way that you respond to that incident?
I don't think that anybody could. I honestly don't think anybody could.
Then
I think that we do everything that we can do within our power, and we're employing everything that we have within our power. And I know that this is super emotional, especially for a lot of us here who remember Granite Hills and Santana, and probably some of us may have even been attending those schools when it happened. We can do the best we can do. I want to make sure that we pay attention. I want to make sure that we're aware. I want to make sure that we deploy everything that we have within our power to keep our students safe. I don't want to, I want to run with awareness, not fear. Okay, I don't want our kids to be afraid. And so that's really important to me. I want to create the safest environment possible without scaring our kids and having them feel like school is a scary place. I see a lot of hands, but I want to also honor our online audience. So I think we
Can
need
I
to go to
also
the
add a couple
question.
things about prevention before I want to keep. that's
Oh,
me.
there you
I
are.
want to keep answering the prevention question, because I think there's a lot of things we do that we haven't covered.
Mhm.
First and foremost, I'm going to go back to what Rhonda said about school counselors and mental health support, because I think that is our bottom line, basic foundation of prevention right there is relationships. So we have increased staff that we have available on campus to not only build relationships with students, but to ensure that every student is getting social emotional learning in every classroom every day. And that starts with how to be a good friend, how to be a good student, how to talk to each other when we have a problem with each other, and learn how to resolve issues together. So it starts at that basic foundation, and then it builds from there as appropriate for the ages of students. Then we have school counselors. So if we have students who are having issues, our school counselors are pulling together groups of students, whether, let's say, there's a small group of students who are experiencing an issue with grief or with anger or with problem solving or peer relationships. We try and address those issues that way, organically at the lowest level possible. We have a relationship with an agency called Wellness Together, where we have 4 mental health specialists available and provide mental health services to students on our school campuses during the school day, so that families don't have to be referred out to the community, wait for 6 to 8 weeks, sometimes 3 months to get a counselor, and then parents having to take them after school to receive counseling support. So those are our partners. They are on our campuses. They partner with our school counselors. If they have a concern, they are talking to our school counselors. They're talking to our administrators. So that's another preventative piece. Back to the threat assessment protocol. It's not a policy, it's a protocol that we have. Our staff are trained on it every other year. Our school psychologists, our school counselors, our administrators are all trained to implement a model that is research-based called the Dewey Cornell Threat Assessment Model. They interview the student, they interview the family, they interview potential witnesses, they look at any sorts of evidence that we have. There's a way to evaluate that threat and determine whether it's transient or I'm going to forget the other word, substantive. Thank you. If it's a transient threat is a student that just gets mad and says, I'm going to kill you, and there's no real oomph behind that threat. It's just an angry student. A substantive threat is where we've identified that maybe there was some activity online, or maybe there was a hit list and some planning involved, or maybe there was something that happened on social media that someone made us aware of. So they go through a very rigorous process with more than one person's eyes on the information to determine is it transient or substantive. If it's substantive, that is when we get law enforcement involved. So we call law enforcement, they come and kind of do their own version of an assessment, a little bit different. They might go knocking on the door of the home. They're going to ask questions. They're going to find out, does the child have access to weapons, or are there weapons in the home? Are those weapons locked? So at some point, we hand it over to law enforcement to do their part of the job. But we stay in close communication with them. They tell us what they learned. And then if a student if an issue has happened and it requires discipline, then we follow the discipline protocol. If that happens and the student requires some support, we follow the support protocol. And sometimes that involves doing a safety plan where we welcome a student back on campus, and we bring the family in to meet with us and to sit down with the student, and we talk together. Our job is to keep you safe at school. Our job is to keep everybody else safe at school. This is what you did. We're concerned about it. How are we going to come up with a plan together to make sure you're safe at school? That could look like, we're going to check your backpack every day when you come on campus, or you're not going to bring a backpack to school anymore. And Obviously, we're wanting to get parents on board with us to implement the plan, and 99% of the time that is the case, because again, safety is important. So we make a plan together with the student, and so that plan is individualized, but it can look like a lot of different things. The last thing I want to say is that at the middle school level, we have a partnership with Sandy Hook Promise, and we have made available to all of our students, we train them annually, sometimes twice a year, depending on what's going on. And they have an app that they can download on their phone or on their device, or both, called the See Something, Say Something Anonymous Reporting System. A student can make an anonymous report in that system if they're worried about a peer, or if they hear about anything that could be a safety threat at school or in the community. And then those threats go to a call center where the folks at that call center are trained to respond. And so the person who's making the report is anonymous, but the call center through the app can communicate with the student and ask questions. And then the student can answer the questions. Sometimes they communicate, it's radio silence, but sometimes they can engage back and forth with the student. They have a protocol that they follow where they assess the threat level. And if it's an immediate threat or a threat of like bodily harm, potentially, that's when they immediately alert the school principal. And so for every school, they've identified, and we only have this at the middle school level at this point, they've identified 2 people at the school level that are immediately notified, and then we have 2 people at the district level that are also notified. Sometimes we get phone calls from this call center in the middle of the night because they've identified something, as someone's made a report late at night, in the middle of the night. The call center is 24/7. Our phones ring in the middle of the night. They might just be asking us for an address. We need to go out to the home. I will tell you that the vast majority of reports we've had are for students who are afraid of a peer, for self-harm reasons. It's more, my friend is depressed, my friend is talking about hurting themselves, or my friend is talking about ending their life. We respond to those in the same way. But obviously, the police are going to go out. If a child says anonymously, my friend said they're going to hurt themselves today, they have a plan, the call center is going to call our local sheriff's office, and they're going to send them to the home right away. If it's something where it doesn't appear to be an immediate issue, they inform the school pulls that student in first thing in the morning, or as soon as we find out, and they work with the student, they call the family. So not everything we do is a board policy. A lot of what we do is an internal procedure that we've created that we follow. So there's probably more that I'm not even thinking of, but those are the things that I'm thinking of off the top of my head.
I want to go to the online folks.
Okay. Looks like there's a couple.
A couple questions wanting more details on the Winter Gardens fence. They want answers to when you are going to do that.
We will talk about that. I'll talk about that with the board and with the
I will
powers that
print
be.
the chat
Mhm.
out after so that you can refer to the questions if there's anybody that you want to answer.
Yeah.
They also, and you talked about Facebook, but they said be aware of TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat.
Right,
which thought
right. Social
Lieutenant
media,
talked
yeah.
about. Someone made a comment. Hold on, let me get in. The middle school students only see their crew teacher once a week for 30 minutes.
That's at LMS, at TDS, it's daily.
Day
Okay.
daily. Mhm.
This is just what the thing. My daughter's crew teacher got changed 2/3 of the way through the year without an explanation. Okay, echoing and agreeing with concern on the Winter Gardens fence. Thank you for responding rather than overreacting. This is a terrifying topic. It's clear that you understand that and are doing what you can to assure the safety of our children when they are on campus. Not for this meeting, on a related topic. I would like to ask our sheriff partners to ramp up their response to the homeless. Within the last year, my younger elementary school age children have been approached in the park with secretive offers of candy. They have also been exposed to partial or total nudity with full exposure of private parts as homeless persons involved were sleeping it off. We were advised by the responding deputy that he sleeps out here, and that we shouldn't have a problem with the indecent exposure as a result of the fact that the guy doesn't have a home. I don't agree with that response. That's what they
Noted.
said.
Okay, I'm going to Kiki.
I just have bullet points. So I've always been very vocal about the fact that I was a student at Granite Hills when Granite Hills had their school shooting. So I have a very different perspective as somebody who's been on the other side of it. I will tell you, the wrought iron bars terrify me. I don't agree with those as fencing. Yes, they keep somebody out, but they also keep people in. People can't climb those fences when they're trying to run. And, you know, I worked with TDS to get a push gate at the back gate, because those push gates are phenomenal. But when you're trying to funnel hundreds of people through it, they have to have the ability to climb a fence. So I despise the wrought iron fence idea. I'm all for a 6-foot-high chain link, because it still will take a grown person time to get over a chain link fence, but the wrought iron. $11.99. So every year I put out the radio call from our school resource officer that was at the shooting. He actually $11.99 after the first shot at the suspect. It took a full 2 minutes before the first nearest available responding officer could get to the campus. So for us, ours was not as tragic as Santana's, because we had somebody there exchanging gunfire. So I am a huge supporter on a school resource officer. I know Grossmont, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but Grossmont, when we initially got our school resource officers, they were shared. Like one school or two schools had one officer and he would rotate, because ours was actually supposed to be at El Cajon Valley, but he was at our school that day. But I think it was a grant initially because of after Columbine. So I would be curious to find out how Rosemont now budgets it into every school. So I am more than willing to, okay, like.
So I was speaking with the superintendent of the Grossmont Unified High School District,
Yeah.
and she said that they pay for half. And then there's the San Diego Police Department pays for half for those that are on that side, and then the Sheriff's Department pays for half. So they offset the cost with them. I don't know if that's a grant that you all got from someone, but
Yeah, I believe it is. For instance, even a couple years ago, they had a grant for SRO, school resource officers, at even our rural campuses. There were some, like Mountain Empire got one, some of the northern county ones up in Valley Center got them, but unfortunately that ran out. You know, with additional funding, maybe we can add more, but that's going to be up to state grants and federal grants. Right now at the Sheriff's Department, we are experiencing some staffing shortages. Just it's the nature of the profession right now. It's not necessarily a sheriff's problem. It's a nationwide problem.
Yeah.
But we'd love to have them.
Yeah, so that's just from me. I just know like that $11.99 in a perfect world would be like 30 seconds.
Yeah,
But the
Richard
reality is
Gundes was the name
sometimes-
of the officer. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes they're a little bit farther away. The only other thing I had was, well, two things. So the release system, like at my daughter's school, I've already talked to them about kind of revisiting that, because right now it's like, you know, 250 hits and all the kids, first through second grade, are down at a fence line, which kind of defeats the purpose of like, we're keeping them all safe for 6 hours, but then we're all gonna have them flood this one area at that last little 10 minutes. So almost keeping them up higher out of sight, and it's gonna take longer, it's gonna be a radio system, but something where they're a little bit safer at that last little 10 minutes of the day. And then training to kids. So I know that I've actually talked to Jake about it. At middle school level, we talked to them about see something, say something. But there's not a whole lot that's going on at elementary school level. But by the time they get into middle school, they're not really talking to their parents. They don't really like us anymore. So if you kind of start building that relationship, and I'm gonna be honest, you know, I have kids 9.5 years apart. Sometimes Gemma knows what necessarily know what Dustin's doing. So sometimes those younger siblings are really quick to be like, and sometimes it might, but sometimes like it's hard because some of it could just be wanting to get older sibling in trouble, but some of it could be valid. So I'm a huge supporter on teaching them at elementary level that see something, say something at an age appropriate. But once they're in middle school, it's all, you know, they've got the peer pressure and they've got the parents aren't our friends, and it's kind of that mentality.
Yeah, it's different. Our middle school students they're entering a different mindset. They're trying on little personalities and what it's going to be like to be an adult, so they're trying on their adult skins for a little while. I'm going to be this way for a while and then that way. So we have people there for them to communicate with. Do you want to talk about your dismissal? That is just, drop off and dismissal at any school is the most challenging part of the day for sure. So yes, when you have these kids coming out, yes, they're coming out in droves, but you also have a ton of parents there. So for me, I always felt like that was our safest time because there were so many people around the campus and waiting on the sidewalk across the street or waiting over here. And I liken that to, I remember when I was teaching at Lakeside Farms, we would get so many complaints from the community about the traffic, the traffic to pick up the kids and yada, yada. And so we called, the CHP to come out to observe and see if we could change things. And they said, this is actually the best part because you have all of this traffic. The cars can't speed. You have kids walking across the street. And yes, it's 15 minutes of congestion and uncomfortableness, but the traffic is your friend when you're dismissing school. Kind of look at it that way too, that as we're dismissing, the adults that are surrounding the campus, they're our friends. So they're helping us keep those kids safe.
Well.
Yeah. Okay, over here, you've been waiting for a while in the orange shirt.
I was a little late to the party here, but I wanted to say a few little ideas that I had. I'd seen online a hack this guy did with the chair. If the door, they couldn't lock it with the handle. I'm sure some of you have seen it. You stick the leg of the chair in it. Is there something that even a little kid could run to the door and do if the door's not locked and the teacher's trying to, because our schools are all outside. We don't have hallways. And a lot of the classrooms have 2 doors.
Right.
And so if there's something, you know what I mean? Like, is there like some kind of a safety stick or something that even kids could do if they can't get that door? You know what I'm talking about? Just some kind of quick latch or I don't know.
There's things that are coming along. I will tell you what we do have on all of our doors is a lock block. Some people like them, some people don't. They weren't designed for a security purpose. They were designed to keep the door noisy when it's shut, but the door remains locked. And then if you need to have that security, you pull the little tab on it and the door shuts all the way. But yes, there's always more that we can look at, but we also have to do it within, again, we want to create an environment that's as safe as possible, but not frightening.
So then there's the windows. Like I know you guys covered most of the windows now, sort of in some of the classes, at least at Lindo
They're
Park,
tinted, yeah.
where we're at. But I know they're they're not bulletproof or something. So just the teaching of these little kids, just not hide near even the windows, or I don't know, because like especially at Lindo Park, it's on either side. All the classrooms.
It's a good point, but that
So
is
it's-
part of our process when we're having our
Yeah,
drills with our student is
something
to
like
avoid the
that.
window areas.
And so then one more thing,
Okay.
talking about, this is a big topic, all of a sudden gun control versus gun safety. I'm not going political here, don't worry. Gun control versus gun safety, 2A versus take them all away. As a community, this is a rural community. I would wager that a good 70% of the people that live here are armed, well armed. They hunt, they do whatever, and their children know how to use guns too. And so I think a lot of parents are lulled into that safety. Well, they know how to use guns, so blah, blah, blah. That doesn't mean that kid's not going to get stupid and grab that gun that he knows how to use. And, and so I was wondering if there's community, if I say we as a figurative, could, in the light of recent events, gun safety classes, especially for parents that, and they could have that, my kid would never do that type, videos of those accidents where the parent was careless and the kid got a gun, took it to school and wasn't even trying to be a school shooter, just was,
Show
or
and
any
tell.
of that, like do you know where I'm going with that?
Mhm,
So it can be a big, and make it a community event, more than just once, just trying to be like, okay, so our kids are in danger. And they're in danger not just from the outside, they're in danger from the inside. They're in danger from drugs, they're in danger from online bullying, they're in danger, yeah. And we go and we try to limit their online, and we, or watch them like hawks with drugs. Some people home test their kids or whatever. But the parents have this accountability. Like you said earlier, they're getting the guns from somewhere. And I was gonna say, I'm totally 2A, but I'm also, you need to be smart. You need to be righteous with those guns that you own. And we need to, everybody out here is just kind of cocky and, my gun's sitting right up there. My kid knows how to use it. It just, that's one.
You make some good points. You make some good points, and very thoughtful about it. So definitely, I mean, we can tap into community resources. The school system is here to educate kids. And so I want to make sure that our focus is on making sure that our students are learning. Gun safety is so important, but how can we tap into resources that and have the know? We know the math and the reading and the things like that. I don't know about how to teach about gun safety. I would have to defer. So, but it's not a bad idea to
It
have
can
a
be
class.
super easy, super
Yeah.
simple, I mean, they're making all kinds of, kids relatable stories about all kinds of things these days, as we know.
Right.
So gun safety shouldn't be a taboo. Oh, we don't talk about guns at school thing.
That would be something with a conversation that we could have to have around that. But you made some really good points. And so thank you for your thoughts and for sharing. Okay, you've been waiting a while.
No, I didn't.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Mine's not so much about the guns and the inside the classes, because I gotta say, I'm really glad about the fences we put up. I used to be able to walk onto LMS indistinctly and nobody stopped me. And I could just go and get my daughter from the back end. So I'm very happy about what has happened. But that is the point about those bars. I never thought about that. A month and a half ago, my son was grabbed at LMS by a man that was high as a kite that had been sitting under the sign on the school campus. And then another young boy was thrown into the street, and God bless Mr. Mull, chased him down and put him down in an apartment parking lot. And this is not an incident that hasn't bothered me since both of my children were in and out of LMS, because it is on a public street. And One-Eyed Charlie used to sleep naked over in the couches in that lot across from the school that still collects people and campers. And then you have our campers that are up in those hills up there that I know are there, which is why my children, no matter how old they are, will never be allowed to walk to LMS. But in this situation, I don't really know that there is anything better that Mr. Mull could have done. And you talk about parents being happy that parents are there for pickup. Well, there was all kinds of parents who never got out of their vehicle as this man who was as high as a kite from the riverbed. And now my son is possibly gonna have to face this guy sober, if he's sober, in jail, because we're being subpoenaed. And I know another little boy. Nobody's reached out to me about that. Nobody's contacted me. I didn't want to hear it on the news because I didn't want my son to be anywhere near this. But inside your school, and now this is just LMS, because Lakeside Farms has now, I love the way Lakeside Farms is set up. Lindo Lake, I'm not so sure about, but that park, I do a lot of service with the homeless, so I know what we have out there. I don't judge anybody. But I don't think that the outside of LMS is safe. And I don't think that enough attention is paid to it. And I don't think that there are enough deputies that go by at certain times. If this man was standing under our sign on school campus for the amount of time that he was. And the good thing was the shelter in place happened right away. So Mr. Mole had them kids back, everybody's back. Unfortunately, some of the kids were out a little early. And of course, I'll never let my son leave the parking lot again because of this. But this is our neighborhood.
Mhm.
And some people can't afford the bus to go from one side of Lakeside to the other. And so their children are walking. And I was picking up my son down the road just as a habit, because I hate that parking lot because it is insane. That's just a reality of school, unfortunately.
It is.
Especially with the size of the school and the size of the parking lot, and it's on a two-way main street. I understand that. But you can worry all you want about gun safety and that stuff, but we have these folks outside all the time, walking on that road by the school property, and there is nobody out there.
So I'm hearing what you said, and I do know that that event happened. I heard it a little bit differently, but your kids were there, so I'm going to take your word for it, right? I know, is Joe Anderson talking about this tomorrow night about?
Yes, I'm going to that.
Okay.
I'm not gonna speak for Joe.
Right,
Let's
no,
be fair.
but I'm just
I don't
saying that
know.
it's happening. There's going to be a community meeting tomorrow night.
And-
About
but
our
the-
homeless
The point
situation.
that I'm trying to make is that this is something that Mr. Moore has to watch every day. This is something that if he, and I've seen it, you know, the guy with the underwear on top of pants. I mean, I have seen Mr. Moore have to come out of that school. But Mr. Moore ain't 20 years old,
No,
okay? And thank God the young man that was his staff person was a big young man. Because I don't know that Mr. Moore could have handled that man because he was so high on crystal meth and whatever. I mean, God only knows, unfortunately. He's an addict, obviously. But we don't have anything going on for that. We don't have anybody posted at those places when all our kids, and a lot of them do walk because parents don't have a choice, coming from Riverford Road all the way around, and they have to pass. And yes, they have to be subjected to, you know, Charlie was naked one day on them couches. He was changing his clothes and the kids were walking into school. I said, Charlie, what are you doing? He's like, I gotta get dressed. That is where LMS is. That's our community. We live here, we deal with it, we understand it, but it also is getting worse. And there is no safety out there for that, that I can see.
I'm not disagreeing with you. This is
But-
something that has to be, we have to continue to have these conversations about how to improve things for our students and for our community. This is a community issue. And so there's several community groups in our community that are very active. And this is a conversation that we would want to have with all of us to make sure that we're considerate in addressing it as best we all
And
can.
I'm not aware of this because I live clear over here and my daughter went to TDS, not LMS. So I'm trying to picture everything you're talking about, except that I know I have a void down there. But if that's a school where we know we have this Charlie guy or
Well,
whatever.
he's gone now. That was just,
Okay.
I'm just using an example
Okay.
because to make it present in your mind so you can
Right.
see.
So
The difference between LMS and some of our other schools is LMS is right on a main street. And so so we have a
So
lot of
my-
walkers. You can't say you can't walk
Pardon me,
in front of the
that's my
school.
point. If you know that that school is a higher risk or more problems, that's where some of this $150, whatever $1,000 needs to go for security to that campus. You know what I mean? Lakeview's got a great parent association. I always see them out there that, you know, 15 minutes and all the kids are gone. They've got a great program down for all that. And you're right, all the parents and the teachers and everybody around, there's lots of eyes and ears to see if somebody was gonna do something crazy. But in these areas that you know aren't secure, that other school that doesn't have the wrought iron fencing, that you don't know when it's gonna be put up, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to, I'm just saying, I know there's a budget, you have to get it approved, and then you gotta get a contractor, blah, 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 blah. So if it's not in by the time that school starts up, then use some of that money instead of the expensive on-school campus thing, and get additional security at that school until the wrought iron is up, at LMS, until we have more officers that can patrol over there more often or whatever. Look at the ones that you know don't have the proper security, don't have the proper gates, or have the problems, and get something there. Rather you do something with, I don't know what LMS's Parent Teacher Association is like or whatever, for volunteers to go down there and whatnot. If I didn't live over here and whatnot, I'd go and give me a thing and I'll blow a whistle and keep eye out because, and give chase to the best I can. But I told you on the phone, if I was standing there and I saw somebody coming up, and if it took me confronting them to keep them from getting onto my grandson's son, therefore taking my life, I'd gladly give it over his 7-year-old life or any other child's life.
So what's so valuable for us as a school district about these conversations is you're bringing up some good points and some good ideas. And so not everything that you've said, I had thought of before, didn't think of that. So there's a conversation to be had around that. So we can come back together, have these conversations and know, you know, this is where our parents are feeling vulnerable. This is where we need to look at something to see what we can do, and do it as quickly as possible to address the safety needs of our students. So I don't have the immediate fix right this moment, but we're having a good conversation that's giving us some good nuggets of thought. Okay, so I appreciate your comments. Okay, back in the room.
Sorry. So I'm a product of the Lakeside Union School District. My daughter's here now, and I'm also a military member of 15 years. During my time in the military, I've done 5 deployments, and I've entrusted my daughter's safety to the schools. I'm honestly very concerned that I see what you put up there. You have great, PowerPoints, and it looks phenomenal, but what is the action for it? My daughter, I've never seen any notice saying that they're conducting a drill at my daughter's school. I know teachers personally in the district that have said we have never received active shooter training. You may do lockdowns once a year, but the realism to the training is not there. The time for the children to be frightened and all that is not when the incident happens. It's not being frightened, it's being knowledgeable and knowing what's happening and understanding. I asked my daughter, she's a 6th grader, I asked her, did they ever speak about the recent events in his, that just happened? She said, no. That's a conversation. That's why you have the counselors there, to have that age appropriate conversation with them, but also have them have the knowledge to know what is going on in the world, because not knowing, and unfortunately that teacher, that's devastating that he told his students to, get under the table and go to sleep. That's not proper protocol. You lock the door, you move to the side, run, hide, or fight, right? I'm law enforcement in the military. That run, hide, or fight, right? That's what we teach all our other people. We need to give our kids and our educators the right tools and equipment. And I know, everything is budget and money and money. When you have plenty of resources within your parents who would give their time 100% free, I would love to be involved in your active shooter training and lockdown training for any school for free charge on property of the government. I would do it without anything. I'm getting ready to deploy again in 2023. I'm concerned if I should move my daughter from this district because I feel like they're not giving them the right tools to keep them safe.
First of all, let me thank you for your service to our country. We're very appreciative. If the teachers are reporting that they're not receiving active shooter training, then that's concerning to me because it's supposed to be happening every single year. That is part of our safety plan. It should be happening. I want to address the drills. We would not be notifying the community that we're having a drill. We don't notify the teachers when we're having a drill. It's supposed to be a Johnny on the spot thing. Boom, this is when it's happening. We're not supposed to tell our teachers we're having a fire drill. They'll tell us, oh, you have to tell me because I have a student who's sensitive to. No, we need to be as if it were happening in the moment. And this is just what's going on so that they are prepared. It's about preparing them. I hear what you're saying about a presence. And again, that's something we can talk about as far as having eyes and ears. I don't think that we would bring in armed presence on our campuses. That's not something we would do. But
My
Definitely.
question, maybe the notification, so I'm thinking, you know, if we do drills in the military, if we're doing a drill with blinks, like, coincidentally, I'm in the training department, we're doing a drill tomorrow, right?
Mhm.
So we do that, we let people know, hey, something's gonna happen, you don't have to tell them exactly what's gonna happen, there's gonna be something involved, if you don't wish for your student to be involved, then, you know, they can go to another side of the campus, but this realistic training, I think the sheriffs might agree with me that kind of muscle memory and knowing what to do in a stressful environment, that needs to happen. It's not happening.
Yeah,
That's
and I
good,
wanted-
good for that.
I
I
wanted-
want to, just 1 second, I'm not
Okay.
trying to, I'm just trying to be respectful to the speaker that's currently on the floor. I want to give us 4 more minutes together. We're going to wrap up at 7:30 so I can let the people who have worked all day go home, okay? And I just want to thank everybody for coming. Again, lots of things to think about as a result of this. So I'm going to take one final comment and question.
I just wanted to say that based on what she was talking about, the teacher in Uvalde, that hit me really deep. I don't know what they practice in for earthquakes or whatever the other drills are that our children experience in elementary school. And so when he said that he told his children to get underneath the chair, you know, their desk and pretend they were sleeping, and now he feels horrible guilt because he left them, what do you call it, you know, exposed and vulnerable. So I just wanted to ask you, and I'd like to close on this, is to please investigate and find out what should our teachers be doing with the students? Should they all be going in a corner? Should there be a closet? Like, where is it back east where they have the tornado?
The tornado
warnings
warning.
that they put in? So maybe we need some sort of shelter in each individually classroom, like go, you know, code word or whatever, and they all go into a room that holds them all and the teacher. So when the active shooter came in and opened the door and look, he wouldn't see anybody. He doesn't think they're somewhere else, you know, or whatever, but to make sure that, because whatever our kids are practicing, I don't even know, for a potential gun shooter. And folks, I don't think this is going away anytime soon. And so, you know, we've got to figure out what is safe for the kids if shots ring out. And it takes a while for the police to get there, because not every school has a thing on there. So, you know, what is the best method and way to protect the kids instead of saying, get under your desk? I mean, an earthquake, you get under, that's understandable, but not when there's somebody coming door to door. So I'm just saying, I know this is a new kind of a, you know, it's getting, but please try to research and find out what is the best thing. And then we've got to teach our teachers, and we've got to get the building. I mean, even if it's not, you know, there's got to be some sort of closet or something, or somewhere or something that can be done besides just putting them under the desk.
So again, these trainings, okay, these trainings are always evolving, and there's different theories that come up all the time between, you know, on how to respond to this. As they learn more about how these things happen, the trainings evolve on how we're supposed to respond. So we're looking at all of those things, and we are evolving as these trainings are evolving too. But yeah, thank you for your thoughts. Just one last quick one. You got 30 seconds.
Just want to follow up that I work with Mr. Mall every day.
Yes,
And
I've seen you there. Hi.
I'm about 20 feet from him every day. He's very strict students. All the gates are covered. We have counselors and teachers that walk around that perimeter all the time. And I know Mr. Mall. The only problem that I see is the perimeter on the road outside. Parents are trying to come in, and these guys are traveling 35, 45 miles an hour going up and down that road. They need a flashing light to slow these people down or give them tickets. They need to slow them down because there's so many students there in the morning. It's very, very dangerous.
Maybe highway patrol, right?
Yeah,
I didn't
but
ask
we
them
can
if they
certainly,
said that
we
they
can-
couldn't
we
have parents help with that because it was a liability because of
I'm-
what might happen between the adults out in the parking lot.
It's, as I said, the drop off and the pickup is always the most volatile time around a school,
Big
so.
driveway in the back. Why
They
can't-
do, and they share, they kind of split it all out, they
Do they,
share,
like, they changed Lindo Park totally, because we just had that little
Yeah,
janky
it's
one.
just-
with the
The
construction,
back,
yeah.
and Parents are kind of liking it like they did at TK.
Yep.
That alternating thing, and it's kind of working, I guess.
We're always looking and trying to evolve our drop off and pickup procedures, but it's a challenge until we can do teleporting, you know, and just teleport your child into your home with you. Then we have that challenge. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight, and I want to thank those of you online. And if you were late, this was recorded and it will be on our website. We'll post the link on our website so that you can see, or if somebody asks you about it, then you can share with those people what we discussed tonight. So thank you all. I appreciate the fact that everybody was very respectful. And so that was really nice. And I know that you guys are coming here out of concern. And please know that we're hearing you, and we will be looking at everything that we have and always trying to improve, always trying to improve. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.